Okay. Hi. Um, I want to make sure that this is showing up in my Facebook page. So let me just get a confirmation from that before we continue. Zila, can you give me a thumbs up or something that it's happening on Facebook that I successfully connected? I'm going to try to check right now. Oops, it looks like she got kicked out. Okay, I'm getting the signal that we're on Facebook, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to dive in. Thank you for coming to this little Sunday rally where I'm gonna excited to talk about pores. My name is Danny, and I'm the creator of Skin Harmonics. And it's been kind of my lifelong endeavor to understand skin. And I think this whole Facebook Live thing has just been kind of an experiment to see how I can best support my existing clients and, of course, gain more interest. And my ultimate goal here is to kind of break through and pierce this, I guess it's like this toxic beauty matrix that we're in, where we've been so brainwashed and so hypnotized in a certain way to take care of our skin that we haven't been able to really take in new information and develop new and better ways to be with our skin. And so that's kind of my main agenda. Anybody who knows me, that's kind of my thing. And so I am a strange esthetician in that way, that I'm not doing chemical peels and over scrubbing and all of the conventional methods that are so popular and so mainstream. I've combined my efforts with a doctor who has patented bioavailable dermal nutrients so that we can transform and resurface our skin, but without all of the chemicals and trauma that is traditionally involved with clinical skincare. So that's sort of like a quick introduction about myself as the creator of Skin Harmonics. And one of my favorite topics today, so this is how it's going to go. So I'm going to talk about pore size and the oil water balance that's in our skin. And then about halfway through this 30 minutes, it's going to go super fast. I'll field any questions that anybody might have. And there is one lingering question that was left over from last week, and that was a woman had asked about scar tissue and old acne scars, and what's the best way to approach acne scarring. So I want to address that question. But as I'm talking and sharing about pores and my whole take on the whole thing, be thinking if you have any questions, and you can put them in the chat box. I have my dear colleague Zila, who is here joining me on Zoom, and she might be chatting with you, and she'll be texting me questions. Anybody that has my number, you can just text me questions as well. So okay, so one of the biggest things when I meet with clients and hear with people when I get new clients is like this whole thing about pore size. Like, so many people come to me and are so worried about the size of their pores, and it's like there's this like pore shame that everybody has, like, oh my god, my pores. Like, people are constantly apologizing for their pores and their pore size, and they have like a pore dysmorphia effect, where they think that their pores are just horrible and they're too big and they're all the things. And I think the first thing that I want to say when addressing this topic is that pore size is genetic. Like, we inherit our pore size. And so whatever pore size we have is perfect based on our genetics. Now, in saying that, skin that is overexposed to the sun and is dehydrated, the pores can get congested and become enlarged over time with excessive sun exposure and chronic dehydration. But I also want to say, in talking about this topic, is that most beauty ads and beauty commercials and beauty media is they Photoshop their photos. So you're not getting like a real people. It's almost as if, you know how, I think I've used this before. Some of my clients have heard this. It's like Barbies were made without nipples. It's like the photos in the skincare industry were made without pores. Like they've been photoshopped out. And so everybody that has a pore thinks, oh my God, my pores are so huge. And so know that it's just not realistic. And the job of our pores, one of the main reasons that our pores exist is so that oil can travel out through the hallway of our pore canal and actually put oil across the surface of our skin. And that oil is like exactly what our skin needs to have something that's called an acid mantle barrier that's in place. And that is the combination of our own sweat and our own oil that creates this slightly invisible acidic film that tells the skin that the sebaceous gland that it doesn't have to overproduce. And the fact that it's slightly acidic, it's the first defense that our bodies have that come into contact with viruses and bacteria. And so having an intact natural acid mantle where you're utilizing your own natural oils is exactly what our skin needs. And so interfering with that is messing our skin up tremendously. And so in the beauty culture and in clinical skincare, there's this whole complete misunderstanding about using pore minimizing products. And that would include toners, and that would include pore minimizing clay masks. There's even pore minimizing serums. Like there's this whole market of products that cater to this fear of having large pores inherently, just we're wrong right off the bat because of that, and that they must be minimized. And it's absurd. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And so knowing to abstain from those products, just having the wherewithal to protect and love your pores as they were given to you, understanding that they're perfect in size, and not doing those products, not doing all of the toners, even lavender, tea tree, any kind of mask that gets dry on your skin as a clay mask to minimize pores, like all of that is dehydrating our skin, therefore taking our skin in the opposite direction. And another misunderstanding that I've heard about pores is that pores open or close and that they must always be minimized. And pores do not open and close. They soften. If you steam them, they can get soft, but they don't necessarily open and close. They're not like a door that's on them. The ideal state for our pores to be in is hydrated and with this barrier restoration, which is the use of a heavy moisturizer. And it's also this oil-water balance. And it's something that anybody that knows me hears me say over and over and over again. And it's just this understanding of which is what I covered in my last week, was all about grabbing and holding on to water, using aloe vera gel or some sort of hydrophilic substance, and then strategically trapping that in against our skin with a heavy moisturizer. And I know, again, that goes against a lot of what we've been fed about how to have clear skin, is that we have to hold back that oil and dehydrate our skin. And basically it does to a degree shrink our pores, but in a very unhealthy way. It's like the pore canals get kind of raisined in on themselves, and then they can't do like happy pore functions, which is like release oil and stay soft. If they're so raisined and hardened in, that's where the big problems start to happen, because then the skin gets really congested. And so all of the congestion just starts to build up underneath the skin. And the pores are sort of like shriveled in a certain way, but they're also enlarged. They're constipated. The pores on our skin can get that way. And then, of course, you add sun exposure and having to hold this congestion rather than having it just like move, freely through the skin. So that's kind of that has been what I have come to over years of like watching pores in slow motion. And for many of you who know me know that I spent years participating in the methods that I was taught in school about, using astringents and using things to pore minimize. I think many years ago, I myself was using all of the astringents on my skin, trying to get my skin, my small pores relatively to be even smaller somehow. And it created dry skin, which is like the end of everything. It's all about water and hydration, and that's the new North Star that we're going towards, not towards withholding oil from our skin and doing things to sabotage our skin's ability to hold on to water. Um, I think I think that's the main thing that I wanted to say about pore health. Um, and I guess the biggest thing, and then I'll start seeing if there's any questions that anybody has. Oh, I'll dive into the question about scars. Is yeah, that the biggest thing is just understanding this oil and water connection, and it really is like peanut butter and jelly teamwork for the skin. Like understanding how important both water and oil is on our skin will help clear our pores and free our pores and help them be the best pores that they can be, and that beautiful yummy texture and that plumpness that comes from pores that haven't been scraped and over scrubbed and melted and zapped. It's like they're plump. There's that beautiful texture that we love skin for, is when there's that little mound around where the pore is, and it's just that really beautiful. There's something just so gorgeous about when our skin has that natural balance of oil and water. So I'm just gonna talk about scar tissue, and then I'll look for my next questions. I'm reading some questions right now. Okay, this is good. Okay, so I'm going to talk about scarring. Scarring is something that there's no simple answer for. And at this point, there's no one product cure for scarring. And that's the sad news. It really is. At this point, what is important to understand, there's so many products that are selling scar cures that you can just can drain your bank account like I have years ago just studying all this stuff. I mean, snail goo, I will have to say, is showing some promising scar repair. So that might be the one area that I will look more and do more research on. But scarring has to do with volume loss in the dermal layer of our skin. And the dermal layer is that deeper layer that actually makes the epidermal layer. And so when there's volume loss or injury from an old, breakout that just, it disrupted so much of the natural texture that it took some of the volume out with it. And some zits can completely be that large and leave a lot of scarring and, variation in the dermal layer. The only way that I've ever seen to improve scarring long term is by increasing these stabilized dermal nutrient applications daily, topically, super doses, and of course in ratio raising water levels and doing the barrier restoration using a heavy moisturizer. But what that requires is giving your skin a foundation of skin health. And so a lot of times people come to me with like, I have hyperpigmentation, or I have this scarring, or I have 50 years of major sun damage. And it's like, okay, first things first, we need to put this baseline in. So many problems can be, number one, prevented, number two, radically minimized if there was just a foundation of skin health in place. And that's something that I talk about over and over and over again with water, dermal nutrients, protection, this idea of sunscreen and a heavy moisturizer. And the final being allowing our skin to release congestion so it doesn't have to explode and volcano out, like allowing for that constant release so that it doesn't get pressed down like a beach ball underwater and then at some point just like explodes out and takes, dermal volume with it and you're left with a scar. So dealing with scars is sort of more of a long term. There's no quick fix for it. Increasing positive blood flow and hydrating and all of those things I just mentioned. So there's that in addressing scars. So let's do, okay, this is a really good question. How many products is too many? Yeah, it's gotten a little out of hand. I think my biggest pet peeve is products that are single use, used over and over and over again. Like, one of the biggest things I'm proud of with Skin Harmonics is getting people on a bulk refill system of the basics, so that you're not tricked into buying, 7 or 8 different products every month, and then all the plastic waste that goes with that. So this is what I believe is like somewhere between 4 to 7. Let's count them together. So the first one would be having a very gentle cleanser on hand that you don't even use every day, but you have it to remove a sunscreen or some makeup that you have on, because daily cleansing might not even be necessary if you don't have a lot of really heavy makeup or a really hard sunscreen on. So number 1, gentle cleanser. Number 2, a hydrator, not a toner. Nothing that's ever astringent, and that would be a high quality spring water or a rose water, something that is specifically hydrating as a water, even if that's just as simple as really clean water. Product number 3 would be a hydrating serum. This would be something that has aloe vera gel or hyaluronic in it to hold that water. And ideally, this serum will also have dermal nutrients in it as well. But even just using a hydrating serum will magnify tremendously the amount of water, which is the highest priority for our skin to have. So that would be the next product, some type of hydrating serum. And then a moisturizer, a really heavy, dense lipid moisturizer. What product are we up to? We have the cleanser, we have the hydrator, ideally with the dermal nutrients combined. We have the moisturizer, sunscreen. That would be the next product. I'm somebody that believes that a lot of masks and scrubs aren't really worth it unless you're doing it. Maybe just like once a month, which is what I advocate. But different scrubs and clay masks and all of that, you guys have already kind of heard me weigh in about that. The one product that I feel like is pretty useless, of course, is an oil-free moisturizer. And the other one is just like, you see all these masks. Like, it would be all about a hydrating pack. That's a little bit different than a mask. If you are going to use an extra beauty product and you want to put a pack on your skin, you could put like an aloe vera gel based, some herbal essence thing, but be careful that it doesn't have herbal extracts in it. There seems to be people just kind of go crazy with masks. It's like a mask fetish, like a woman with a shoe fetish, right? It's like all of these different masks. It's money not well spent, in my opinion, at all. Sometimes women get carried away, or people get carried away and use different moisturizers, heavy or light. I would say use the same moisturizer and just use it lightly or heavy. Like, you can actually bend the amount that you use so that you can turn it into a light moisturizer or a heavy moisturizer. I'm not a big fan of different types of cleansers. Like, one gentle cleanser is all you need. Some women and people have 4 different cleansers. I think that's a waste. I'm trying to think of some other skincare products. We're funny. It's like we'll just grab at anything when we don't have what works, and we'll just fall for every, you walk into Sephora or you walk into a department store, you walk out and in and out of a Medi Spa, and it's like you kind of just fall for buying all these little products. All of them, if they're not hydrating, giving you dermal nutrients, supporting barrier restoration, all of them are just superficial conditioning of the skin. Like you're just, you know, using products superficially, in my opinion. So, and you know, the beauty routines that people, you know, if you get on, I don't know, I don't want to drop any names, but like it's really, I mean, it's something that I've always said I want to do a Saturday Night Live skit about, like how complicated beauty routines can be and have gotten, like if, you know, for people. And it's just, yeah, it's insanity. So that's why I've developed minimal cleansing, a hydrating mist, a hydrating serum, ideally with nutrients, a moisturizer, a sunscreen, and once a month doing a really good enzyme hydrating pack where you're exfoliating and hydrating your skin at the same time. So that would be me weighing in on that. And let me take a look. Okay, let me read this. How would one... Okay, so the question is about, okay, how, with their normal amount of oil and pore size, how do I know what my normal is? Okay, well, we all know that, I love this, normal is a setting on a dryer, right? Like, there really is no normal. It's like, if we just hydrate our skin, you experiment with how much hydrating mist to use, experiment with how much of the hydrating serum to use, and experiment with how much of the moisturizer, ideally Lamina or the former face butter, to use. Experiment with all of those different amounts, because that does vary greatly. Some people have less porous skin and larger or smaller pores and will absorb more or less. And those factors are always changing too. A lot of clients report that their skin absorbs so much more initially, and then once the cup is full, so to speak, with their skin, the skin is it's just maintaining water levels. It's not about trying to dig it out of the red, chronic of being in the red zone of being dehydrated. So you can just trust that if you're just, you know, getting into the feel, and this is where like nobody can really tell you, just have to like have your own experience and just experiment with those 3 products over and over again to be like, oh, that was maybe a little bit too much Lamina, like, or like if you have, your skin has too much, if it's too wet with the serum, Lamina actually won't even stick to it. So it has to be that like sweet spot of not dry, because we want the moisturizer to go on top of moist skin. But if the skin is too wet, too slippery, the Lamina won't even stick. The face butter did a little bit better of a job of adhering to really wet skin, but that's why I think that Lamina is a superior moisturizer, is because it does trap the water in perfectly, like amazingly. So there is no normal, like your normal for oil production is just whatever it is. Like you can 100% trust it. Like just know that if you're doing that sequence morning and night, for some people even doing it once a day, stabilizes everything. Know that your skin is perfect. And whatever oil your skin is making is like the absolute perfect amount, because we've given it all the water, we've given it all the barrier restoration. It's a number that we'll never be able to even quantify, really, but we can just trust that it's perfect for you. I hope I was answering. I hope I got that question right. Okay, so there's another question about rosacea. And this will be the last question I take. Rosacea is a really tricky thing. Rosacea, for those of you guys who don't know, is a lot of inflammation on the skin, and combined with congestion. And the first important thing to know about rosacea is that it's driven by intestinal imbalance. So what happens in the microbiome of our intestines shows up as rosacea. So number one, finding an internal health practitioner that can help start unwinding what needs to happen to help your body release toxins and to come into more balance so that you're just not systemically inflamed. and it's not showing up on your skin. Like that's number one. Number two, the strategy with rosacea skin is a lot of no's. It's like, don't scrub it, don't give it extra sun. It's all about protecting and hydrating it and getting that lipid, that good lipid moisturizer, restoring the barrier on top. It's all about protecting it, keeping it hydrated, and yeah, just shielding it from, alcohol. Drinking alcohol can be a trigger, a lot of sun exposure. Retinol, traditional retinol creams are something that will, is just disastrous for rosacea skin. So it's learning to find out what's going on in a bigger way internally with your diet and with, everything that's happening intestinally, and also just protecting it and hydrating it and doing very little with rosacea skin, and giving it that constant hydration, barrier restoration. And what I have found over time is that slowly building the strength back into your skin and giving it that support will eventually rehab it towards being able to take in dermal nutrients and to be able to do more stimulating things, and can take more exfoliation, and you can do things that are more regenerative. But when you're with rosacea skin at the very base level, it's just, gentle, 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 less is more, and falling back on that foundation of skin health, which is water and the dermal nutrients and barrier restoration, and allowing your skin to release anything that it needs to release. So there, like, gosh, this time, it goes by so fast. I want to do like a really quick demo of the Lamina, and I want to just remind you guys to find my newsletter. I'm being really good about it. I'm trying to do this thing where I'm sending them out every 2 weeks because there's coupons tucked in there. Okay, so this is how thick the Lamina is when you first get it out. And you have to just sort of like know that this is just not a normal moisturizer. This is like very, very, very different. And then you have to kind of smash it. Warm hands help a lot. And you make little baby circles, and you twist your palms, and it liquefies. It gets totally, totally liquid. And then you can just, it just glides right on top of our skin. It's starting to go. It's a little chilly here in Colorado today. But if anybody wants a coupon, text me and tell me the subject line of my last newsletter, and I'll give you a 10% off coupon. New people can always go to my website. See how liquid and shiny that is, and download my book, get a 20% off coupon. And of course, just share this with anybody you know who loves and cares about their skin. And yeah, let's just like write new stories about beauty in our skin, and let's wake each other up and kind of step out of line and find a better way of being with our skin that just makes more sense. So thank you guys for coming. I want to try to end on time. And I think I covered about everything. Definitely listen to my book. There's a 90-minute audio on YouTube if you don't want to read the PDF. And thank you so much for showing up. And I have one more Facebook Live next Sunday, and we'll do it again. And then we'll just, like I said, this whole thing has been an experiment. We'll see how it goes. And I'll see you guys next week. Share the event with your people and your friends. And thank you guys so much for coming. All right, bye.